Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. Thank you so much for joining us here today as we watch the Hunter Burton Memorial Lorcana Championship. This was the second annual event, the 11th year for the Hunter Burton Memorial itself, and we are so thankful that 20 Lore Pro was invited back for this year's tournament. This year we had over 70 competitors compete in the Lorcana tournament, along with many side events and freebies that were raffled and given out all throughout the day. We want to thank our Enchanted Level sponsors Cloud Collectibles, Random Encounter Games, The Card Haven, Pixelborn, Mothership Books and Games, and Pixel Haven. Thanks to them and many within the community, we were able to raise over $7,500 to support 988, the U.S. National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you or a loved one are experiencing suicidal ideation or are going through a mental health crisis, reach out to 988. There's support available 24/7, and there are professionals who want to help you find the right resources that you need. Again, this is 20 Lore Pro, and I'm Sir Ashtown, and thank you so much for joining us. We also want to thank Miguel over at Diamond Ink Apparel for doing the beautiful artwork on the Lorcana Championship playmats that you see before you on the tournament screen. If you want to get yours non-serialized, you can head on over to 20lore.pro to our merch section. Also, there will be a link in the description to get yours today. We want to thank GFQ for printing those playmats and for being a long-time partner alongside 20 Lore Pro. Thank you, GFQ Underground, for printing those mats. And here we are going on to the next round.
Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm Sir Ashtown, and joining with me today is Liam from the Illuminateers. How are you doing, Liam?
I am doing very well. I'm very excited to be here. I love this event, and I'm honored to be back for a second year. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to be here. We have had a plethora of players join. We went from 30 players to 40, and I believe we went all the way up to 68 players. So now this is a 7-round tournament. We're going to have more rounds for y'all tomorrow, along with the top 8. So you're just getting a small taste of what we're doing here today at the Hunter Burton Memorial Lorcana Championship. We are going on into round 3. We are here at the Hunter Burton Memorial, and we are so excited to be raising awareness in the gaming community of 988. If you or a loved one are going through a mental health crisis or having suicidal ideation, head on over to 988. There's help available 24/7.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to do a little bonus coverage here, I call it. This is the first game that's playing right now, or the first match that's playing in the top 4. This is LorcanaKid, and from the match we just saw, playing his Emerald Steel discard deck into Steven on Amethyst Steel. We are waiting for the other match to start. While we're waiting for the other match to start, which we'll switch to, we're going to watch this for a little while. So we may not get the full match, but I do think they're covering it over on Lore Keepers in Twitch channel, Twitch stream.
Twitch something.
Twitch
stream. Yeah, so when we were coming into this deck, based on the Inkwells, it looks like Steven is on the play here. It looks like his record is a little bit better than LorcanaKid as well, so probably was able to make that decision. This is the first game still. We have an Amethyst Steel versus Emerald Steel discard. We saw LorcanaKid last round show off the deck that we know from previous metas. Looking at this game real quick, we did see Steven play Genie on this last turn, which is relevant. Genie having evasive, lets you draw a card as well when he gets played, but specifically can counter these Diablos that get played because of their evasiveness. So it might slow down LorcanaKid's draw engine through Diablo here. See if he decides to quest or sing anything with it. We are going to sing a Strength of Raging Fire onto this Calhoun. Banishing Calhoun, making trouble for LorcanaKid, trying to play out cards like Hidden Cove, that I believe Calhoun was used to challenge and banish that on the last turn as well.
Yeah, as you pointed out, though, Diablo here probably not likely to stick around very long, susceptible to that Genie challenge. But looking at the hand size here, normally this green steel deck, we saw it be very aggressive actually with discard in the previous match. Clearly hasn't managed to put enough pressure on Steven to slow him down. Plenty of cards over there, plenty of gas to keep him going. We do see the Prince John established over there though on LorcanaKid's side last turn, so could get some extra draw if he starts moving into the discard route here. But right now, looking at what I'm looking at, I would say the Emerald Steel deck, the Amethyst Steel deck, probably a little bit of an edge here. With what's on board and what's in hand. So let's see. White Rose being played. That'll give a lore to Steven.
Still have 2 ink available. It looks like we're going to play out another Calhoun. Calhoun, a card that I love from previous sets. When she challenges and banishes a character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore, 1 lore? I don't actually
2 lore.
remember. 2 lore. Oh yeah, it's like the Robin Hood.
Yeah, it turns her from, normally she represents 1. You have to start having to do a little bit of math because especially in the end game when you're calculating up what's available, she represents 1 lore on the board, but 2 lore on the challenge. So, yeah, extra threatening there.
Makes it especially difficult for LorcanaKid to utilize one of the mechanics in Emerald Steel Discard that they showcase so well, which is singing, being able to sing the removal actions as well as the discard actions to sort of get this Prince John going and deplete your opponent of resources. We're going to see a morph enter the inkwell here. Prince John is going to go ahead and sing. Is it a... Oh, nope.
Thought about it.
LorcanaKid taking his time, figuring out what he wants to do. This is the top 4, so be very careful about your plays. Looks like he is just going to pass the turn, decide not to do anything. Go over to Steven. I believe that was a Cobra that was just drawing a new card from Arcasia's Island. You play it, you can discard 2 cards, or discard 1 card and gain 2 lore, excuse me.
But here, serving as ink to play that dock, discarding, I think, a hand of 0 cards, if I saw correctly, to draw 2 more. Is that 0? I think the goat.
I think you may have had 1 card in
1
hand.
card in hand. So discarding the goat to draw 2 cards. It's interesting, Amethyst Steel is a deck that's been around for a bit. Not necessarily tier 1, although some very good players piloting it. I think most people consider it just right below, but it's been around for a while. The iterations of this deck I've seen here, and this one might be no different, are very similar to previous iterations. The Cobra, I think, is the only card that I see regularly built into this new iteration. So not a lot of new tools in this set for it, but still performing very well, as evidenced by Steven here.
Yeah, as Amethyst has developed as an ink, they've gotten more and more resources that essentially allow you to just gain lore immediately without having to use characters to quest. And so Amethyst Steel has sort of turned into a deck that it's a bit mid-rangey, and then you're able to sort of get close enough to 20 to matter, and then you have cards like Goat, the White Rose. There's a couple new cards from this recent set that allow you to gain lore, like the Cobra. I think there's also an action that lets you draw a card and gain a lore. So I've seen different variations of that being played as well, which can make it a little bit difficult to interact with you. If you're not able, it's not like a character where you're able to challenge the character and remove that lore resource. You're just gaining the lore as those characters are being played and you're using those cards.
Yeah, no, great point. On Steven's side, now pushed to 8 lore. That board looks a little scary, but LorcanaKid managed to establish a bit of a board here that could swing things a little bit. If that Ursula Deceiver all sticks around, is able to double sing a song that's either 2 cards drawn, a double damage action, or even a sudden chill. Now, as I say that, it does not stick around. Steven, recognizing the threat, sings Strength of Raging Fire, removes that Ursula, but even a sudden chill there could have forced a double discard into a double draw with Prince John, which really radically could have changed the game state. Unfortunately, we don't see what LorcanaKid would have had planned with it, as it is gone at this point.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the last game, Emerald Steel Discard manages to apply pressure through multiple characters that need to be answered. But one of the things that Steel decks do in general, or one of the things they're good at, is answering those threats. And that's no different for the Amethyst Steel player here. We see Steven building out a very wide board, something difficult for Emerald Steel to deal with because they don't have any cards like Be Prepared. And they're usually not running any Grab Your Swords. We looked at Derek, or LorcanaKid's deck list earlier, and he wasn't playing any either. So we're going to pass over to Steven, up at 12, huge lead, bunch of lore on board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lore, could go up to 18. Something as simple as a goat bounce would be enough. I don't think we have it though. We're going to play a broom, also a Calhoun as well. Go ahead and banish the broom, trying to find something. We do see a Cobra. Okay,
Is that a Cobra?
I think it's a Cobra. We don't have anything to discard. We can set ourselves up for game on the next turn. All we have to do is draw a card that we can then discard. Looks like we're going to go up to 16.
Yeah, a fun little interaction I'll point out too. Definitely kept the gas going over on the Amethyst Steel side by using that dog very effectively. Not only did we use it once to draw 2 cards when it was played, but then bouncing with the Fox, drawing 2 cards, keeping the momentum going. A really fun use of that card, which then allowed us to develop the Smee as well on Steven's side of the board. So great turn a couple turns ago.
LorcanaKid using that Ana to banish one of Steven's characters. We're also going to develop a Diablo on board. Yeah, and it looks like Steven has game on board, so they're going to scoop and move on to game 2.
Yeah, fascinating. Hard to know exactly where that game turned. We didn't see the opening of the first 3 turns, whether or not the Diablo shift came out right away. But you know, from when we tuned in, you know, LorcanaKid fought back a little bit, had a little bit of removal, but Steven managing to use that dock very effectively to draw numerous cards, just keep going wide with his board, and just way too much for LorcanaKid to deal with.
This can be a somewhat difficult matchup for Emerald Steel discard, I think, as well, because Amethyst Steel specifically is really good at just sort of cycling their cards. If the cards that they're playing aren't gaining lore, they're usually drawing a card, and so when you're playing cards like Genie, potentially Rabbit, Trenabog's Followers, Magic Broom, Luminary Keeper, all of those cards are replacing themselves in your hand, and so one of the primary ways of attacking through that Emerald Discard is trying to do is by discarding your hand, and that makes it especially difficult. On top of that, Amethyst Steel also is playing like relatively beefy mid-range characters. A lot of them are like 3/3s, for example, which can be a little bit difficult for Emerald Steel to deal with because a lot of their characters are a little bit understated because of how strong their abilities are, like Diablo, Prince John, Ursula Singer, things like that. So I believe Steven was on the play on the last game. Obviously, LorcanaKid will get to be on the play this game if he chooses to do so, but I've never once had a Lorcana player deny being on the play when given the option.
Yeah, I see. You know, somebody in the chat asking, wait a second, this is the top 4 and there's no Sapphire decks here? That's right. In the top cut, if you missed it, out of the top 8, there were 2 blue steel decks, only 4 green steel decks. And actually, both of those blue steel decks were different. One with the Kiwi kind of mid-range aggro version, and the other the item synergy version. So yeah, Sapphire, to that commenter, Sapphire not as well represented here in the top 8 as a lot of us might have expected, given the zeitgeist of the last few weeks.
We also aren't sure what the other 2 decks are on the top 4, I believe. We're still waiting on the other top 8 game to be finished up.
And we'll bring you that top 8 game. I think we're going to switch over to it as soon as that is live. So we're just waiting for that. One of those games in the top 8 went extra long. And so they're moving the pace here as quickly as they can. It's been a long couple days here for everybody. So trying to move along to the finals as fast as possible.
It's like both players have finished their altering. They're shuffling up their decks. We'll soon get into this top 4 game. I admittedly don't know a whole lot about Steven, but one thing that I do think is cool, we talked about LorcanaKid being a younger person, making it this far into a tournament, I think is really cool. I was talking to him a little bit earlier as he was practicing with some other players, and I think he's been to a couple DLCs as well. I think he went to DLC Seattle, and supposedly did pretty good over there as well.
It is always wonderful seeing, you know, the next generation of Lorcana player coming up here. You know, the future of the game are these younger players, people, you know, 18 and younger, who are going to be the ones that carry this into the, you know, in the next decade. So, so I'm getting a note here from Aaron's been walking around the floor getting some notes. Apparently, the LorcanaKid is also a former competitive chess player as well. So gaming definitely in his background. And Lorcana can be like chess in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of times, especially as the meta evolves, you end up finding there's a lot of openings you can learn similar to chess, where, you know, in chess you have different openings based on black and white and which moves each player takes in the first couple turns. It can be kind of the same thing for Lorcana when there's a couple decks that get established in the meta playing against each other. Part of being good is sort of knowing what the most optimal plays are between those 2 decks, and so very similar to chess in that fashion.
Interesting opening here, though. We had the Diablo on turn 1, no turn 1 play from Steven, unexpected there, and then back over LorcanaKid, we don't have the shift, it looks like, or we're taking our time with it, questing with the Diablo there. And then passing back over, is that?
Yeah, when we looked at Steven's hand earlier, I believe we saw an Illuminary, a Magic Room Illuminary Keeper. But I believe we didn't play it in fear of the Diablo shift happening, potentially with a Storm, because, okay, so we do have a 2-drop. I knew we had a Madam M Snake in there as well. I wondered if we just didn't have anything to play out. But it does look like we have the Mr. Smee to play. We're going to pass over to LorcanaKid, inking we don't talk about Bruno. follow it up with a Prince John. Probably just past the turn if I had to guess.
Yeah, so not the ideal opening for either player here. But on Steven's side, establishing the SME is good. It's a big body. It's something to control the board a little bit. On LorcanaKid's side, a Prince John coming down, I think, a lot earlier than you usually see it in this matchup. But we'll see if next turn we can take advantage of it. We are not going to be able to take advantage of it, most likely, because Pete, games referee, says no actions on your side. So I see your Prince John and say you can't use Sudden Chill, Hypnotize, or any of your other discard actions. We could see an Ursula, perhaps, but we do see an Ursula, not the one I was talking about there. Deceiver of all come down here.
No, that's exactly the one you were talking about.
That's exactly the one I was talking about. I knew it the whole time. But setting up a play that we saw possibly develop last game, where you have perhaps a double Sudden Chill with a Prince John on the board, which would be a really, it's a really awful play to have happen to you. We'll see if it sticks around and that line is available.
Yeah, the Prince John is certainly a slower opening to Emerald Steel here, and I think is one of the reasons why we saw the Pete come down from Steven, saying we're going to deny you being able to sing and get any advantage off of that by a turn. It might end up backfiring a little bit with this Ursula Deceiver of all being played, because for the reasons you mentioned, if we have something like a Sudden Chill in hand, then that just gives LorcanaKid even more card advantage. But Steven is not exactly starved for cards in his hand.
No.
Has a handful here. Can ink up to 4 and potentially play out a couple characters this turn. Maybe looking for a way to, if we have, I do see a Strength of Raging Fire in hand. One of the great things about Pete is because your opponent can't play actions on the next turn, he's almost a guaranteed singer on the next turn. So probably looking to play a character here, sing Strength of Raging Fire onto this Ursula to deny any removal actions being played next turn, or discard actions to get those Prince John triggers. Calhoun, a really good character here.
And then Strength into the Ursula, as you suggested. Great card to establish here. This board feels a lot better now for Steven. Getting that Ursula off the board, really, really critical to prevent a big swing play there.
Yeah, and Steven's setting up a board that makes it really difficult for LorcanaKid to do a whole lot, because you have that Calhoun in play. You don't want to be exerting any of your characters to sing songs or even quest, challenge, anything, because you don't want the Calhoun to gain lore off of those challenges. We also have the SME available to us here that's questing, sort of tempting LorcanaKid to challenge into it, that we don't have anything to banish it on his side of the board anyway this turn. We're going to pass it over to LorcanaKid. We have 4 ink available, could go to 5. Starting 3, what will we see? A Storm being played onto this Mr. Smee here.
That, draw a card. Ink into the Sudden Chill. Okay, so force a discard here, draw a card off the Prince John. All right, fun little series. The board looks a little bit better now, and eating into the hand size just a little bit, getting another card. So not a terrible sequence there. That Prince John can be such an annoying card. With Ward, he just sits there all game with his static ability, and then late game you can quest for 2. So also a threat on the board in that regard. But definitely a slow play, as you highlighted earlier. But sitting there all game can come into play at crucial times.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you see time and time again with these Emerald Steel discard players, is you do have the Prince John with Ward, like you mentioned, very difficult to interact with him. He serves as a draw engine for you, and then once you've gained enough advantage to build up a big board, you have 2, sometimes even 3 Prince Johns with Ward on board, and now that you've gained control of the game, you can just start exerting them all, and they boost you to 20 really quickly. LorcanaKid was able to find a Diablo here, though, to shift for it. Steven did play a Pete last turn, though, the one that he picked up from his Madam M Snake, so no actions for LorcanaKid on this turn. Looks like we are going to go back to Steven here. Likely looking for ways to get rid of this Diablo. Going to go ahead and quest with the Broom here. Probably see a character be played to banish it. We're going to see the Madam M Snake come down, pick up that Pete again, banishing the Broom so we can draw a card, also giving us another opportunity to play the Pete, which we see here, just keeping LorcanaKid off of the songs he might be wanting to play.
And another card for LorcanaKid, though, off that Diablo trigger from the Magic Broom. So definitely giving himself, some increasing his card advantage here, and it's starting to feel a little bit like a corner is turned. Still a fairly sizable board for Steven over there with the 2 snakes and the Calhoun, but a lot of the tools that Emerald Steel discard deck likes to have in play now on the table, and threatening with a few key cards here, I think, to run away with this. Another Prince John, it looks like, on top of a Pete. So no removal actions available to deal with that Diablo this turn for Steven. And now 2 Prince Johns sitting there always feels really bad.
Yeah, double Prince John means anytime we can discard a card from Steven. And another, is that another Pete that just came down?
It is. No actions this game.
No actions this game
no
at
actions.
all.
This is the no actions semifinal.
Makes it a bit difficult for LorcanaKid to do what he's trying to do with his deck, honestly. He can safely quest with these Diablos because they have evasive.
There's that Gantu, though.
Gantu coming down, a new card from Arcasia's Island. As soon as he comes down for I don't think is it anybody? Maybe it's just your opponent can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn. Yeah, when you play this character, characters can exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn, and then each player pays 2 more ink to play actions or items. So kind of like another Pete in a way. Just a way to stop your opponent from being able to use songs. Then next turn, it doesn't exactly stop it, but it makes it a lot more difficult for them to. And usually the whole reason you're playing songs is so that you can play them for free. So having to pay extra for them is not ideal.
So Steven here pushing his lore total, though. I mean, getting dangerously high. Not as much removal in some of these green steel discard decks as others sometimes, sacrificing some of those slots for discard actions. But Heffalumps and Woozle's going to come down saying Pete cannot quest.
Yeah, we have to get rid of at least one of the characters on board this turn. More than that, if we're expecting Steven to have something like a White Rose or Goat available.
Another Prince John, Ursula Deceiver. Looking at the hand, looks like it's an empty hand. Nothing shown. And see, we're going to challenge into the snake there. But Amethyst decks, I mean, one of the things about it, 18, 19 lore, that's 1 goat or 1 cobra away. Do we draw into the goat?
Find 2. We're going to play a Smee. It's not exactly it. Also, no Pete's on this turn, so LorcanaKid.
Oh, look at those sudden chills. It's a handful of sudden chills, I think. I might be wrong, but that...
I saw at least 2.
Oh, man.
That's a handful of sudden chills. That's unfortunate because Steven, of course, won't have any cards in hand. Can't draw any cards if Steven doesn't discard any cards, so...
I mean, that is the classic way to play around Prince John is just don't have any cards in hand. And, whether that was by design or just the state of the game, Steven here making those sudden chills absolutely useless.
But something that Amethyst Steel can be pretty good at because they're a mostly mid-range deck. You build up 5-6 ink into your Inkwell, and you can pretty easily play whatever you draw for that turn, even if some of the cards that you play draw a card themselves, just because everything's 3 ink, 4 ink. I don't think it gets much more expensive than that.
And Steven here taking, I don't want to say cautious approach here, but choosing to challenge into that Prince John instead of pushing himself to 19 and questing with everything. Although, no, I'm sorry. The Heffalump said that Pete couldn't quest this turn, so having to challenge if you want to utilize him this turn, then we will quest for 2.
Going to 18 is still put Steven on game if LorcanaKid can't banish the Smee in play that's readied. We saw he had a bunch of sudden chills in hand. Does he find anything to help him stay in this game?
I'm struggling to think of what it could be. Strength of Raging Fire, you could remove the Smee that's ready, but yeah, just all those sudden chills sitting there. I mean, normally you love to have those in hand when you have 2 Prince Johns on the board. You love it, but not when your opponent's hand is empty. And oh gosh, just a rough turn. Almost had it.
A rough second game for LorcanaKid. We saw the slower opening with the Prince John, probably because we had a couple of those sudden chills available to us, and I think Steven saw that and understood that it was important for him to get cards out of his hand with those Prince Johns in play. And like we said earlier, the Amethyst Steel is a pretty good deck into something like Emerald Steel discard because of their ability to create board presence, also use cards like Pete to bounce and repeat, stopping LorcanaKid from being able to use those songs that you really want to utilize with cards like Diablo, Ursula, Deceiver of All as well. even the discard cards like Sudden Chill with Prince John. And so being able to do that, as well as a lot of the cards replacing themselves in Amethyst so that it's even harder to discard their hands. But it looks like Steven is going to move on to the finals. We're going to see an Amethyst Steel deck.
In the finals, very exciting. Very exciting. Not one of the ones that I would have predicted coming into this tournament, but I don't know. I love to see it. I love to be surprised. Yeah, and Chad pointing out the Pete train. I am excited to go back and watch this match because we did. I don't know how many Petes were played that game. I think on either side, but
I think Steven replayed the same Pete like 3 times and then played another one,
which is wild. And so I didn't take a look at if the sudden chills were made like useless by the Pete, and there were turns where they could have been effective, but for sure that added to the misery of having those sudden chills stuck in LorcanaKid's hand. So yeah.
Definitely. I'll be eager to hear what has been happening at the other tables to see who's made it into the other semifinal match.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that answer here shortly.
As well as maybe who else is going to meet Steven in the finals.
Yeah, 1 second. We're going to see what's going on in the other match here and taking a look. From the... All right, so we're getting update, everyone. This match in the top 4 has finished. The other top 4 match has not paired. The previous round's top 8 match with Aaron Rubin piloting the... I know one of the decks is the item variant of the Sapphire Steel deck that Aaron Rubin's piloting. That match is still going on in the top 8. So we have not paired the other top 4 match yet. We'll bring that to you shortly as soon as that is available. So don't go anywhere. We have the last top 4 game, and then the finals to show you a lot of really talented players here. I don't know. What do you think we're going to see in the finals, Brandon?
Something interesting for us to think about. It was one of the decks that I considered not bringing this weekend, but expected to see this weekend. So my gut's telling me Sapphire Steel. I know there were only 2 in the top 8, but I feel like the deck is really strong and could definitely make it all the way to the finals.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see what we have as we bring you back to the booth here. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Sometimes I really enjoy Lorcana challenges where we have these giant fields of players, some of these bigger 100, 200 people tournaments that we see. But this is kind of a sweet spot tournament for me. When you have 60, 70 players in this type of event, you do have some great players bringing in some of the best decks, but there is some room for innovation and for people to be surprising and bringing in things that they want to experiment with. And we saw a lot of that here this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, even in the previous top 8 game that we commentated, seeing the Pirates deck, that was pretty cool. And going over earlier, that the top 8, it's not what everyone expected to be. 3 Emerald Steel, 2 Blue Steel, an Amethyst Steel, and I don't remember what the other one was. Red Blue, I think.
1 Red Blue, yeah.
Yeah, Red Blue. So I wouldn't say it's unexpected, but Emerald Steel definitely coming in and I think surprising a couple people because probably wasn't on a whole lot of people's radar other than the fact that it's been a strong deck in the past.
Yeah, what's old is new again. We see all the time in Lorcana. I will say I didn't expect a pirate deck to make it that far.
Oh, right. It's been great seeing, talking with you guys. I have to go. Liam and his puns, things you can always rely on, I guess.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go to a quick break here, stretch the legs a bit. We're going to be back very shortly with that other match, though. Yeah, so don't go anywhere because I can't wait to watch this next game of Lorcana with you all. So.